mother got full custody. Hold on. Okay, yeah, and my mother got full custody because my dad was super abusive. She'd always tell the story of how they were fighting before the divorce, and the three of us were out boating, and my dad tried to tip the boat. So when my mother and I wait, my dad tried to tip the boat so that my mother and I would drown. Flash forward 20 years later, when I reconnected with my dad, we were driving to meet his family, and he had a mental breakdown and confessed that he is bipolar and wasn't on his med, but he did in fact try to push her and me over the side of the boats in hopes that we'd drown. He also wasn't taking his meds again when he confessed.
So we don't know what was true. That could have been a hallucination.
No. He said he wasn't on his meds when he did that, and he said he confessed that he did try and drown him. And
but then he
the mother
confessed that he
did
wasn't
know.
on his meds when he did give the confession.
No.
So.
Right, so he confessed that he did that. And then at the time when they were together, he was not on his meds again.
Okay, but
and he tried to kill his entire family.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is then he admitted on his deathbed that he wasn't on his meds when he was giving that confession. So how do we know what's true?
Because that's what happened. Like the mother told him his whole life that they were fighting before the divorce.
Okay.
And when they went out boating, the dad tried to tip the boat over so him and his mother would drown. And so she was like, whatever happened, they came back to land, and she was like, F this, and took her kids away from him.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't until 20 years later when he seen his dad again, this is what his dad is telling him.
Got it. Okay. Gosh, that's really bad. Wow. I guess his dad was like,
but
bummer. I didn't push them over.
But can you blame him if he was bipolar and he tried to kill them?
Yeah, because when you come back down from your episode, you don't remember anything. So you don't even know why you're being.
I mean, you might remember, but you're really. I don't know how bipolar works. I know like schizophrenia and stuff like that. You're not in control. I know bipolar is like 1 second you're really high, next second you're really low.
That's exactly
but
what
I don't know if
it's all the same.
But with that
neural, so if it's a neural issue, you can't totally be responsible because you really honestly don't have control over what you're doing, and the medication just subsides those episodes. So therefore, how can you totally be responsible? You probably don't.
But with bipolar, you're not in control of what you're doing. That's not the same as schizophrenia, though.
Okay, but
in bipolar, it's just that you're really, really depressed, or you're really
you're really high, or you're really low, you're really up, you're really down. It's really intense, and you're.
But in terms of killing someone, I don't know.
I mean, if listeners, you get angry enough, yes, listeners, let us know, because if you get angry enough, who's to say that you were conscious and aware of something that intense that you were doing? Who's to say that? Because if you were, you wouldn't be on medication. So if you didn't take your meds, it can't help you to make a conscious decision. That's what the meds are for, to keep you at a level where you can at least make a conscious decision. Because when you're angry or super depressed, you're not going to be thinking straight. Listeners, once again, help us out.
I mean, to me, the problem with this is I can't really have an educational discussion because I'm not really well versed on bipolar, and I'm not bipolar, so I can't really debate on this, so I don't know. Yeah, definitely, listeners, if you are bipolar or you know someone who is and you're really educated in this, please let us know. Okay, next one is from username Power Word Coffee. They said, I used to help out at a nursing home. This old Russian lady would relate the same tale over and over. Her husband drank and hit her. It was sad for sure, but one day she leaned over and whispered, he was a bad drunk, so I pushed him down the stairs, dead. Wow.
Oh, whoa. Wow.
And I mean, she could have just been like, he was drunk, he fell. Eh? That's why she didn't get arrested.
Olga?
He was drunk.
Did you just summon the spirit of Olga?
She was Russian, so I was trying to do a Russian accent.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
How Ivan drink? He was drunk. He fell downstairs. You know Ivan.
Yes, of course we know Ivan. Drink, Ivan.
The next one is from user 88 Super Freight. he or she says, out of nowhere, my mom tells me that my dad drunkenly confessed that he and his cousin, whom my mom later dated and had a kid with, picked up a hitchhiker out near the beach in the early 90s. They were intoxicated, and one thing leads to another, and they ended up killing the guy and burying him in a remote location in some sand dunes. She assumed he was trying to scare her into staying with him since they were going through a breakup, and she shrugged it off as machismo. So the story goes, years later, a story comes up on the news. They're asking for information about remains found buried in a sand dune. She's not really paying attention until they start describing this large belt buckle that may help identify the man. She flips out because my dad had bragged about taking this guy's belt off, which had a huge Texas style buckle, and beating him with it, making fun of the buckle and stuff. Next day, the cousin calls and tells her he or his buddies would not hesitate to kill us if she breathes a word. Anyway, she's always felt really guilty about not turning them in, but after losing my sister, who his sister passed away very young, she couldn't fathom losing me as well. The rest is
Oh,
history. Wow. How do you get that drunk that one thing leads to another? One thing led to another, murder. What?
okay. Once again,
What?
you're not a drinker, and that's a good thing. Or is that the word, the term, a drinker, a drunk? You're not a drunk, that's for sure. You're not a drunk.
Uh,
Yeah, people that drink excessively, they can black out also. Now they can black out to
but
where
kill
they're,
somebody?
yeah, of course. They can, here's the thing, they can black out to where they're still speaking erratically, but they're conscious and they're just having a conversation, but it makes no sense. Or they can black out to where they pass out. But either way, they're and they won't remember. A lot of times they won't remember. I'm serious. Like they'll just the next day when they're being prosecuted. Oh my god! The next day, let's say they're in police custody, or later on, so many hours later, it hasn't quite worn off. They're literally not remembering what's happening because what it does is it gives you a feeling of euphoria or either extreme calm to where you just feel so super cool, like you can do anything you want, and then it goes into see alcohol is actually a depressant. People don't seem to realize that. So when
I mean,
they're
of course
when
I
they're in
know
the
that.
mode, well, think of it like this: when they're in the hyped mode, they're super hyped. Like I'm so amazing. No one can tell me anything. I can do whatever I want. I'm on top of the world. They literally feel like that. Then after so many hours, it's a depressant. So then when they come down and crash, literally it's like, oh, I didn't even realize I caused all this havoc. Like, did I really do that? It's just crazy. They won't really won't remember. But when it's happening, it's just all, it just all seems like one big blur because they're really not seeing that what's happening at the time. I'm telling you, it's really what happens. They don't get it. They don't get it. They're just it's scary. But that's no
Well, that's
excuse
why
though.
people shouldn't be
It's no
drinking.
excuse. Well, see, this is why people drink and drive because they literally feel invincible. And they get that high from, just doing whatever and not being responsible. And of course you're going really fast in a car, which is another type of adrenaline rush. You know, it gives you a false sense of extra security and confidence or something. It really does. Why do you think that like even teenagers like in these little college films, like the coming of age films, the young geeky guy can't talk to the girl until he has the spike punch, and then now he's
Well,
got an
look,
S on his chest.
people just need to be more brave and not use, as they call it, liquid courage.
That's
I think
exactly why they
alcohol is
call it that. That's
bull
why
crap.
did you just rest my case. The word courage. So if you have liquid courage, you're going to make some stupid decisions sometimes, and then that leads to
So
murder.
my
Yes.
thing is, if they killed somebody while they were drunk, that means that's something that you've been wanting to do. Then
Well, subconsciously, because what happens is they also say a drunk never lies, right? I'm serious. So what happens is they'll start saying things that they really meant, okay, all along, but they can't say it when they're conscious. So it's all about the subconscious. It's deep in there and it comes out. It really does come out when they're under the influence. That's why they don't remember sometimes because it's like, oh, I didn't realize my conscious felt that way about you that I want to kill you. You know what I mean? But it's coming out then, whether it comes out
That's
physically or verbally.
I don't believe that deep conscious stuff, because then anybody could say, "Hey, I murdered this person because I was drunk. I didn't know that's what I wanted to do." I don't believe that deep conscious. I believe it's something that you wanted to do, but you didn't have the courage to do it, and so when you got drunk, you had the courage to do it. That's what I think.
Well,
So
well,
anyway,
we can split hairs over that. It doesn't matter. People still do really stupid things they can't roll back from and backtrack from when they are under the influence of alcohol or and other drugs. It doesn't change a murder. It doesn't change that decision, and it's no excuse in the courts. Believe me, I see it all the time. Like it's no excuse, and the experts get it, but you still have to be responsible. You should have never took the drink or took the drug in the
if
first
they
place.
get it, then they're just as crazy. I don't think they get it. I think they
No,
just
they
you're
do
drunk.
get
So
no, they get it in the sense that they understand how being under the influence of anything works. It's going to alter the mindset and decision making, and your decision making is out the window. You can forget that. Your responsive skills, all of that is off out the window. That's what I mean by they get it. But prosecutors are not excusing it, or judges. I'm just saying you've done it. See, here's the thing. It starts with the first choice of just being responsible and not doing it in the first place. But we can't turn the clocks back. People do really stupid things when they're and a lot of these murders, if you think about it, a lot of them, someone was under the influence of something. How many times do you really think these 11 murder cases happened when someone was completely conscious and sober and in their right mind? Think about it. No, not happening. Not happening. They were under the influence of something, you know, but drugs or alcohol
I
is the
don't think
influence.
most of them were under the influence. I don't think so. That's just my opinion. I don't think so.
Well, why would you say that when a lot of her cases actually do state that person was on drugs and alcohol? So why would you not think so?
No, they don't.
Yes, they
Not
do.
most of them. Maybe a couple of them.
If you look at the discoveries, they
Okay.
say that person had an issue. That's not true. A lot of them do. Yes, absolutely. So that's something else we need to do statistically is see how many people that were murdered. Let's say, well, is it domestic violence particularly, or just crazy people that are like serial killers? How many of them were under the influence? Believe me, that's been documented.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll look it up.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the end of the Reddit stories. So now we're actually going to go into some true crime stories. So, Joyce had been found horribly murdered. Now, you may be asking, what do you mean by horribly, Kai? Well, she was found stabbed in the neck. She was beaten to death with a cinder block, and then she was set on fire and left in an abandoned house. Man. So nobody knew what happened. Nobody can link anything to anybody. And Joyce's daughter, Sonia Kimbrell, she had a quote. She said, quote, "I didn't trust anyone in the system. I had no trust in the system." And nobody else had any idea that 17 years later, what was going to happen. So, James Washington was in prison in 2009. And, he's just in prison, minding his own business, like you do in prison, when he suffered a heart attack. During this heart attack, and because he thought he was going to die, he decided he was ready to confess. So, what could he possibly be ready to confess since he's in jail already? By the way, like I said, he was in prison minding his business. He was in prison for second-degree murder, a conviction that happened in 2006. So, roll back. Because he was about to die, he decided to confess to a prison guard that he killed Joyce Goodner in 1995 in Nashville, Tennessee. He stabbed her in the neck, he beat her to death with a cinder block, and he set her on fire and left her in an abandoned house. And like I said, he wasn't linked to this because there was not enough sufficient evidence. There were no DNA samples, so nobody could have linked anybody to this, let alone James Washington. So James just wanted to clear his conscience before he died. Little did he know, he was actually going to live. So after he didn't die like he thought he was going to, he tried to recant his confession, blaming it on his heart attack, which he said because of his heart attack, he was hallucinating, which I don't think that's how any of this works. I don't think you get a heart attack and you start hallucinating.